Fellas, Mirror Dungeon of the Lake is here, so we're back to business. And who better to start it off but my personal favorite, Sunshower Heathcliff. We start the run by re-rolling into a solid healing gift in form of Prejudice and Lobotomy pack for much needed extra healing. Since Mirror Dungeon of the Lake gives us all 12 sinners from the get-go, we can start with all passives we want throughout the entire run. For Heesang, I decided to go with Molar Heesang for a possible Tremor Burst synergy on skill 2, since there is no real better Heesang to bring. Regret Faust allows for better clashing, since Foxcliff does inflict a bunch of negative effects innately. LCB Dawn for 10% piercing damage increase, Chef Ryoshu for 15 health per kill, LCB Mersault for 10% damage reduction, Wukong Lu in case we get Wound Cleric for extra power up on kill with counter, Reindeer Ishmael for 10% blunt damage increase, DH Rodia for potential 30% blunt damage increase, Spy Sinclair for additional 10% damage reduction, G-Corp Otis for power up, protection or defense up per turn, and last but not least, LCB Gregor for 5 health per turn. Now with Mirror Dungeon of the Lake, there's been few more or less compelling changes, but for once, first fight have been turned into an actual setup joke, with only 4 enemies to deal with. While first floor boss being a guaranteed human fight means that if your ID does not have a way to beat at least one of the available encounters, good luck. Also, we did lose Stalwart Spirit, so, you know, we actually can get staggered now. And instead of it, we can now start with 2 or potentially 3 starting E.G.O gifts, which if you hop on my streams, that happen weekly between Thursdays and Saturdays, you already know I am not a fan of. But solos are still fine and fun. In fact, I would say they are more enjoyable now than in the past. As long as we detach the re-rolling process for gifts, which, yeah, kinda sucks. Since I have done Mirror Dungeon 2 Horde mode run with Foxcliff recently, where I went through his skills and how to play him, I won't be going through it here. Go and watch it, it's still relevant. So let us jump right into the run, as we are carried by our healing gift throughout it. And since G-Corp is the easiest boss you can encounter on floor 1, we can freely corrode into Yasunyata and shrimply win. Now, for the most interesting new feature of Mirror Dungeon, we get to choose enemy buffs alongside a gift. And before you ask, why not refuse? Refusing just gives them a random buff from the 3 shown. I settled for Blue Zippoliter, giving all enemies 2 extra levels and 10% damage reduction for the remainder of the run. But since we now have resource generation, all of our inactive passives will slowly spring back to life. In our first shop, after wasting some cost for re-rolling gifts, we get our hands on Bloody Gadget for 20% more damage increase, as well as Rusty Commemorative Coin to make future stages where we just want to use our E.G.O and dip easier. Worth mentioning, with all new encounters in this Mirror Dungeon, it's even more important to choose your paths correctly. And by correctly, I mean Pierce nodes are full of rad bastard enemies from Canto 5, so avoid it like a plague. Essentially, Pierce is new blunt, and when it comes to elite nodes, just don't go there. At all. Seriously, it's not worth it. It can end your run, it's not worth even considering. If you feel invincible, those stages will completely and utterly humiliate you. And I have only one question to Project Mu itself. Why do we still fight Pekatulas as the only focused encounter in MD? Just why? But at least I found this weird bag that I still don't know what happened. With Pekatula's Pekagon we get Pekka Disc Fragment, and I am way too lazy to test it, so a challenge to all y'all little shrimplets in the comments. Tell me, does it activate twice with commemorative coin? Because I genuinely do not know. Regardless, some things never change as floor 2 finishes with Inquisitor Beasts. And you know the drill at this point. We make sure to keep their instincts low by not hitting them with too many coin attacks in a turn, till we can kill or stagger them, and it all is shrimple as long as we manage to shove in Yasunyata or less resistance somewhere in between. With beasts gone, we get a selection of gifts with basically the same buff for the enemy, since base and final power are pretty much the same, as well as offense level +3, equaling to basically +1 clash power and roughly 9% damage. So I opted for Coffee and Cranes to make Yasunyata spam consistently reliable, as we should never be low on resources for it ever again. Lore 3 opens with some low threat encounters thanks to our abundance of resources. We mow through them and claim wrist guard from a Pekatula fight. We make some successful and unsuccessful checks, rewarding us with Thorny Path. We fail a check to get nothing. But as we are at the boss node, we get the best boy ever conceived in the universe. One and only Glupo. And in all honesty, I know that we all collectively agreed to call him Glupo, but can anyone tell me why? Like, when did that happen? Why Glupo? It is a great name for a magnificent boy like him, but how did we get there? After solid mental breakdown due to being forced to hurt his royal magnificence, we grab Melted Eyeball as a trophy from him, giving all enemies offense level +7, and from our second selection we grab CV for a lack of better gifts. After re-rolling gifts in floor 4, going into absolute poverty, I managed to claw in Lithograph, Gathering Skulls, and Painkillers for some healing on staggering enemies, as well as staggering myself, alongside some Pierce damage buff. With that, floor 4 opened with Eclipse of Scarlet Moths, which will increase our total damage output by an insane amount, especially when Yasunyata was used due to Moths dealing its damage to 2 enemies when activated with the last skill. As we move through floor 4, Elite Fight grant us one of the new E.G.O gifts we got in this update, Burning Intellect, which is sadly completely useless and does nothing even in a burn-oriented runs, as it only activates when enemies die to burn damage itself. And it's Brazen Bull, demoted to have its lair in floor 4. The previous run ender have found a way to be immune to deployable Ishi, since I would not use a meat shield for a floor 4 boss in all honesty. So as we're going through it, let me tell you what to expect going forward in the year 2024, as well as to tell you all Happy New Year. I'll be working to get out a general guide for Mirror of the Lake when it comes to soloing for my next video, since it is way different than it was in Mirror of Mirrors, so I hope you enjoy that one when it comes. Make sure to subscribe, comment and join Discord to have sneak peeks on what I'm doing. Watch some Discord streams I do sometimes, and have a notification whenever I go live on YouTube. And with Bull gone, we grab Phantom Pain, which regrettably gives enemies +3 to final power. And as a second gift, I grab Rusty Iron Stake, since we already rely on Yasunyata a lot, and it gives us that extra bleed for Little and To Be Naughty plushie. In floor 5 shop, we grab Homeward for some extra healing between stages, just to make sure we're healthy, as well as we can always sell it later in the final shop. Additionally, a skill swap to get more spread outs for easier sinking stacking on ourselves. As we move through floor 5, I gotta say, this floor is a bitch to edit. It's fine to fight through it, especially solo, since every fight starts with just 4 enemies, and you have bunch of attack coins for next wave. Although, one disclaimer guys, never, ever, under no circumstance, go for elite nodes in a solo run at floor 5. Just do yourself a favor, and don't. It's not worth it. We managed to grab ourselves a Pendant of Nostalgia as well as Thunder Branch, and since nowadays final shop is followed by a rest station, I make sure to sell all the E.G.O gifts that are completely useless for a final fight, grab yet another skill free, and after doing a sneaky shop refresh and claiming special contract, I did some enhancing on my gifts just to get an extra push. With that, the run is about to finish, though as per tradition. I hope that you enjoy.